So we'll call this finance meeting to order at 7:04. And we just have a few things on the agenda tonight. Do we want to start with the police chief salary?
Mm-hmm.
You guys kicked that over from the police and fire?
Yep, so the evaluation was very good, and so we kicked it over to finance for approval to move on council.
Did we have a number?
Well, we were gonna take them up to the second tier, which I think Jocelyn was at when he left, so. Scott can tell you about what
Yeah,
it was.
I'm roughly thinking my numbers are just a quick math, roughly 2,000 a year.
What are we talking about?
Step 1, step 2 for police chief.
So what was Johnson make?
I believe Johnson was at step 3.
He was in step 3.
Was he?
The way the ordinance was written is you may be stepped up every year. City manager may already do it. You guys are wanting to do it a little bit early for step 2.
Yeah, he should have been brought up step 2.
So by moving him up to step 2, it would still be less than Johnson, but you're looking at roughly an additional $2,000 per year.
So that would be all we would have to appropriate now then? Is that what you mean?
The additional 2,000.
Well, you'd have to probably change the step ordinance as well, right? Because it says it can only be a year after 1 full year of service, and if you're wanting to do before his June 29th year anniversary.
So is that what we need to do then? Is amend the one we got?
Yeah,
Or is it June?
I think his year, when did he get hired? July or June?
June 24th, 25th.
25th. So the steps currently say at your year anniversary, you're allowed to step up, and at your 2-year anniversary, you're allowed to step up based off performance review. But if you guys are like what to do with, what is it, April? So April then.
Change that or just wait 2 months? Rather than change.
Unless my reading of it's wrong. I mean, that's just how I read it for Chris and Harry.
I mean, I don't mind if he has it early, but you know, if we have to rewrite the entire ordinance, it wouldn't make sense to necessarily rewrite
Not
the
for
whole,
2 months.
right?
So I mean, we can approve it for June.
For the anniversary date.
Yeah,
It's
so
I mean, it's possible too.
so make it active June 25th and second, first.
Yeah, I can do that with just a simple employee action form.
I was going to say if you could do an additional ordinance that would amend it. I don't know if you'd have to redo the whole thing, but it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I don't know what it would mean for future.
I mean, if it was 6
chiefs and
months, it'd be different, but it's just a couple months and
long
it'll
enough here.
go really quickly.
Right.
Okay, so another thing I'd like to discuss is the pool prices for this year, and if we think they're going to, I know it never makes money, but maybe come close to breaking even at least this year. I mean, without considering repairs, I mean, just for labor, for wages.
So we talked today, it was Junior and myself, at great length. We talked a lot about the lessons learned last year in terms of labor being the most expensive thing we have on hand. Or, you know, our biggest expense is labor, and she got really good last year at, really thinning down the labor pool as needed for the smaller crowds and such. We came up with some ideas as well to reduce labor in the snack bar. So with the increased prices, I foresee, unless something crazy happens, we should be able, you just never know how many customers are going to come, but we should be able to break even, maybe even put a little bit in the kitty for the pool liner repair. But if not, we should break even at a minimum. When I say break even, granted that doesn't include the $7,000 for the pump that is hopefully being donated. I haven't heard an update yet. I don't anticipate any problems, but that is also in the background, so I just want to keep the whole picture. And in addition to the numbers that I presented to you folks last time, her and I talked about the concession stand, which really isn't all that big a deal here, but what we did talk about was switching the hours and then also doing swimming lessons. The proposed hour change would be from 11 to 6 instead of 12 to 7. We determined that the bulk of the crowd is gone at the 4 o'clock break and the 5 o'clock break, pretty much, there's onesies and twosies after that, and then from 6 to 7, basically nothing. So by doing that, they're able to move up their party times, and then also the tentative plan is to offer 2 sets of swim lessons from 10 to 10:50, or in the evening from 6:30 to 7:30ish. So swim lessons, $50. That's less than Logan. We didn't have our old prices to go off of. Logan charges $35 for 30 minutes. So they charge $70 for an hour, and we're charging $50 for an hour, which, I think is very reasonable. And I think Athens was charging, in 2019, they don't have their 21 prices up, but they were charging $45 in 2019. So I think we're definitely in the ballpark at $50 for the swim lessons. Water aerobics, $5, and then I think that's it, really, other than the prices we already presented.
Well, it says concession stand, is that 10:45 to 4 o'clock, or is that 6 o'clock? Down at the bottom.
10:45 to 4 o'clock, and then what she's going to do is, on the breaks in between, have the lifeguard open it up to that 15 minutes. Because there's significantly less people there to patronize that, by just having the lifeguard go around and open it up during the break. Or if somebody wants something, they'll be able to go to the front desk and ask for it, and they'll be able to go get it for them. So we don't have to pay labor.
Because that's when it's the busiest, during break time, right?
Absolutely.
So is everybody in agreement with the prices though? I mean, we're not gonna argue about this with the council? Because I mean, last time we had prices set and there was a big to-do and we ended up changing them all.
You and Leslie had already, you discussed these prices as well.
Yeah, so Leslie and I have agreed.
Everybody's agreed on that then?
I have no issue saying, Leslie, we agree. Please call me if we didn't. But we did. So,
Perfect. I'm okay.
Yeah, pass it on to council. for approval, I guess. Next.
oh, hold on. Phone buzzed. Make sure it's not Leslie. Nope. All right. So,
Okay, so I don't know, you may have already taken care of this. Did you still need some specific line items for the mayor's court, like stuff to go to certain line items? Is that what
So,
you
yeah,
said?
so, yeah, we did talk about that, so. Basically, the money that gets wrote to the city, so that should go back to, the portion should go back to the police department, and then what code brings in should go back to code. So that's easy enough to separate out.
So what would we need, line items for that, or how does that work?
They currently have line items, revenue and expense line items as far as tracking what goes in, what goes out. I know Dan and we spoke out in the lobby about if there were other ways to separate, and there are. I think that's easy enough. My only suggestion, and I believe I said that day, was just that if we move the revenue, then the expenses for mayor's court should go as well. Because if we move the revenue but not the expenses, then really we're just increasing the budget elsewhere without paying for the current bills.
Yep. There should be a portion of that money should remain in the mayor's court.
Well, yeah, it should, so what I'm saying is, so the money that gets wrote back to the city from mayor's court, so I take out the mayor's court expenses, but also the other part should go back to the police, and then code should go back to code. So whatever percentage needs to be to cover mayor's court.
An easy way to do that would be like at budget time when we're drawing out the year's budget, you could see for the full year, the amount of expenses taken out, the amount of revenue brought in, and then the percentage code versus police. Let's say I don't know what the percentage is. Let's say it's 75-25. Whatever's left over, you could conceivably say this is gone 75-25 to the sources that they came from. We would be able to tell that with our current system. We really wouldn't have to. You guys would just have to say that at basically when you're crafting the appropriations and budget.
Is the Is the prosecutor currently being paid out of the mayor's court?
It's paid out of, Gary Hunter's son.
It's just the law director is being paid out of, which is allocated from the general fund, so it's not coming, none of that's being offset by what we bring in, because that's the only thing that the prosecutor does, right, is
Yeah, well,
mayor's court?
no, he does handle court cases in municipal on Fridays
But he's not,
for the city in Athens, so we don't get a portion of that. So let's say there's a criminal case that
he
goes,
should get something from that, shouldn't he?
well, we don't. So if, well, okay, so let's say a case is scheduled in Athens municipal, so it can't be heard in mayor's court. The city prosecutor handles that case on Fridays, and those cases are on Friday. I think.
And then he just gets awarded that money then, anything?
So, no, so he gets paid a flat 25,000, that comes out of Gary's, so he works under Gary. And
But they're
then,
different line items though.
so they're different line items, but it's underneath Gary's contract, let me put it that way. So,
I'm just thinking that part of that should, you know, the mayor's court fund should pay that, seeing how that's his primary role in the city. He may handle some cases down in mayor's court, but that's probably something that, it's probably something that started with either a police or a code issue and got moved to municipal, right?
Or sometimes it's written straight to municipal.
Okay, so, but it was generated from our police.
It was
and-
generated from, yeah, from,
So that's what I'm saying, like, his role is primarily to serve mayor's court.
mayor's court or prosecution agency in Athens for Nelsonville.
That's why I think that maybe,
So we have to pay for a city prosecutor down there, whether, let's say we got rid of retention, or we got rid of mayor's court, or any of that stuff we got rid of, right? So we'd still have to pay for a city prosecutor
Sure.
in Athens.
I understand that. I'm just trying to be able to offset the expenses with the appropriate revenue, though. That's where I think we maybe need to look at that as a whole, as far as how that's paid.
I do know it's budgeted out every year, so whatever that is, I don't know the hell.
See, it's separate was what confused me. I thought it was.
It is
under
separate.
law director, but it's separate.
It is separate, but it's still under.
Yeah, they put it as a separate budget item, just so you can see it right now.
It's added to Gary's stuff, Gary takes it out of his salary.
It's out of the general fund.
And so if you're looking to create funds for, police and code, what do you,
So because code's fines are so small, and, court costs can't go back to the court costs is already divvied up. And $10 for every court case or court cost goes to our mayor's court fund, for the computer fund. So we've already done $910 as of the end of February. March's report should be coming out shortly. So code should probably just go back to code because it doesn't generate as big as fines. And then, but the police department, I don't know how you do that. They bring in a lot of cases now.
well, I kind of feel like maybe we want to create a specific fund for it, whether it's a lot or not, maybe just then to be able to use those monies for specific purposes.
Right, well, so, I was gonna suggest that some of that money can go back into their, jail fund or bed fund, because they have a certain line item that pays for, jail costs. So, that could help go back in and offset, because now that we're writing more tickets, and, actually prosecuting more cases, that could go back into there to help with any jail fund that they have.
So, did we move the computer fund, or is it called operating supplies now?
I don't know. We didn't move the computer fund. The computer fund's always been, I don't know if it's
Well, I
ever been
know,
on there.
I don't see it.
It should be at the very end, the 9,
Oh, it's
10?
not under mayor's court.
It's under the mayor's court computer fund, I think it's the 9, fund 910. So it should be second to last.
Because mayor's court was under 100.
So yes, the computer fund separated, so that can only go towards computers and software and that kind of stuff, equipment. The
So-
mayor's court expenses, like the pay and the, the stuff that they use every day, paper, printer, that kind of stuff, that comes out of general fund.
Mr. Frank, do you have any thoughts on,
I do. I think I don't know what would be accomplished by putting it back in there right away. Meaning, let's use the jail as example. If we appropriate so much at the beginning of the year, if we run out of that, it's my understanding we would just come back and ask for more. Hey, we need more money to pay for bed space. So if that money came in and went straight to the general fund, if we came and asked for that appropriation later, it would come out of the general fund to cover it. So the other thing is, how does that affect the budget if we're planning for a year in advance? Does that increase what the spend plan is at that point? Does that increase? I don't know. Those are the concerns. I mean, we'll roll with whatever, but I don't see the value of bringing it back. Meaning, if we need something else, we come and ask already. So then it would just give you more of a resource pool to pull from if we do come and ask for additional.
so are your thoughts just to maintain it in the mayor's court fund?
Well, I mean, now I'm outside my wheelhouse as far as, because I'm under the understanding the mayor's court, well,
It's a general fund.
it would be in the general
Just
fund. Appreciate you asking.
So it just falls back into the general fund hole?
Well, I mean, the general fund is what pays for everything anyways for those two departments. It's not like water where it has a revenue source coming in.
Well, this would be a revenue source, it would be money that went back into, that wouldn't have to come out of the general fund for additional.
Well, yeah, it's true, it is a revenue source, however, though, it's not considered an enterprise fund like the water or waste.
No,
So, which is also good in a way, because then it also gives you flexibility in what you can use those funds for, which you wouldn't necessarily have that flexibility if it were an enterprise fund, but, I mean, because if money goes back to code, then, what does Becky most need? Plywood, or, I mean, does she need
plywood,
something,
clean up, tear down.
or does she need something else, and then does that give the flexibility to be able to use that for either?
Well, I
or?
mean, her budget's so small, so it's.
Sure.
An example of the tear down too, though, is the tear down is already in the general fund, $10,000 this year. So I mean, if code fines are going into the general fund, it's just offsetting the other expenses.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
I guess the way I see the general fund is every year you kind of get this blank slate, and you guys get to craft out kind of where it should be and where it should go. So it's not like the money disappears or anything. You guys get to look. You know what I mean? As far as the general fund, it doesn't go down somewhere and not come back. You guys get to divvy it up every year.
A deep black hole.
So I'm sure we discussed this a year ago probably, but I just don't remember.
Okay.
Why did we put why didn't we put it under code?
But what?
The tear down that's under general other.
I think that was I think the reason it's just there is it was an old line item that had been inactive, and I just activated it, and that's where it was. I mean, we can put it, honestly, we can put it wherever we
No,
want.
I didn't see it under code, and until you just
Yeah.
sent this to us, I didn't know where it was.
We've made sure to notify Becky, obviously. I think we both have had conversations with her that those funds are ready for, delivery this warm season, so.
And we did that in a couple places. Instead of creating new lines, we renamed them, as far as, for example, the plow, when I think we cleaned up that line and took part of it off. And it's in there a few different places as well, but as he said, we can change them and put them anywhere you guys want.
eliminated a good like 8 pages of line items for you. Just all those blank zeros that were just hanging out there from decades ago.
Amazing.
So if
Saving
there was,
paper.
you're right, if there was a line item already there, we just left it. We were gonna add more space elsewhere, so.
So do you think that should go in code, or is it fine worded?
Well, I like to see all every, like if it's for police, you know, I don't like to see other or in the general fund per se. If it's under police, it should be under police. If it's under code, it should be under code. If it's under fire, it should be under fire. If it's under water, it should be under water. That way you don't have to go searching for, well, wait a minute, over here it is in the general fund and others.
We might be able to categorize it like that. Your fund number, you have it numerically by fund number though, do you not?
It's by fund in this, so the way that they're supposed, I'm gonna give you the supposed to and then how they look. The first is the fund number, and that's uniform across all funds, because that's the easiest one. The second one is department, so 625, I think is the one you're looking at,
Yeah.
general other. The next 3 is supposed to be category, and the next 2 is specific line. Now, unfortunately, those last 5 numbers, the city has never followed. It's pretty, I mean, it's like a basic accounting organizational tool. I don't know why we haven't done it. But actually, our goal next year is now you will be able to know where a line item is based on what it is. So you'll be able to say it's water, it's water plant, and I'm looking for operating. And I know where that is because it's like a library. It's got a code. You can find it.
Because it's under water.
Right.
That's why
And
kind
then
of maybe
Okay.
tear down should be under.
And so essentially what we would just
Right.
change that to, which we would, I don't, because the way we passed the budget, we could just make that change and have you guys review it.
I think
Seems
just
like it'd be
categorize,
easier to
yeah.
find.
It would change to 100, is code 325, maybe? I'm 370, I think it's 325. So it would just, the central 3 numbers would change for department. And the nice thing is once we universalize our line items next year, is we will be able to extract data from them. Even if they're coming from separate funds, you'll be able to pull it by the last 2 numbers, the middle 3, and it's gonna be
That's
nice.
gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's gonna take a lot of boring work on my end, but we're gonna get it done.
So that boring work will pay off and have fun.
Right.
You'll have fun making charts with it then.
That's right. I'm looking forward to charts.
So now that we know where it is, should we wait till next year so we don't have to
Oh, I don't know.
change it all, or is
It is April, we're gonna be at the end of the year before you know
I know, don't say that.
it. Sorry, I was just thinking that, like,
It's
wow.
true though. I mean,
So should you start Christmas shopping for me now?
I was gonna buy your stuff at the chili
so would
cook-off.
that be easier for you line wise, or is it just as easy to move it down? Or would it be easier to just wait till you start new? Because I mean, eventually,
It doesn't.
it should probably just go under code.
I mean, we can probably make the move, and go from there. I'm just trying to
This
think.
will give you you could use this as your,
Template.
your trial
Practice,
to,
yeah.
to
Yeah.
make sure that it's a smooth transition.
Right.
Sounds good. So the last thing that I have, well, actually that Taylor brought up, is we need to make a large appropriation for the attorney fees. So I'll give that over to you.
Sure. So we do have these bills that have been on the task list for a little bit. It feels appropriate that they should be addressed, probably at this point. And I have done all the legwork I can with OPERS, and as far as the bills themselves, so I feel that's one of the reasons I've said we've just got to bring it out to the committee at this point. But, essentially, the bills, if they're going to be paid in their current format, will just need pretty large appropriations for salary and OPERS.
But do we even have that much in the, what fund is it, the water?
How many bills do we have? Let's start with basics. How many bills do we have?
So I'm gonna put them in two pots, or two buckets, I like to call it. One bucket is wastewater treatment plant project, and that's just over 100,000, and that's for the 2.5 year period or so, uh, 2 3/4. That is just gonna be 755 fund, and,
That's actually covered under the low cost or the
So,
construction.
yeah, but, okay, wait, so
it'll
we should,
probably come out of either the, what do we call them now, USDA loans or.
so time out, so we've got roughly $100,000 in attorney fees for the wastewater treatment plant project from the last 2 3/4 years. That's what you just said, right? Do I understand you?
Yep.
Yeah,
So, and if I understand this correct.
Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our attorney's contract, which I'm pretty confident he wrote himself, states that he should be submitting bills to us monthly. And with OPERS, if we are not paying OPERS within 45 days of payment, we are paying a penalty on each and every one of those. So now we're looking at 2 3/4 of a year, so now we're about 30 months worth of fees that we're paying on top of the OPERS because we didn't do it in a timely manner. I'm not okay with that. I understand he probably did the work for the plant, but we shouldn't be paying penalty for that. That's not on us.
Right, I agree, and I was gonna say the same thing, I think you're finished, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I just want to make sure that I had all the points there clear and concise before I spoke, because I didn't want to assume anything, but, I just,
The one last thing that I can't personally do any more legwork on, but that is at an impasse, is the sewer plant project contract, which in full disclosure, I voted on as well as council member. So, I mean, maybe I should have read fine print as well. Says that the OPERS contribution from the employee will be fully paid by the city. So the city would pay the full 24% instead of the 14 we would typically pay. OPERS says we're not allowed to do that. They told me I'm not allowed to submit one of those, and that the employee has to unless there's a pickup plan, which I don't believe we have a pickup plan. They actually told me we don't, but I don't believe we have an internal one that's missing or unknown to me. When I brought that information up in a meeting, I was told, I mean,
you were told by Mr. Hunter?
yeah, that, well, the city will just have to pay him cash back for it later, which I'm also, I think in theory that sounds really simple and nice, but that's basically just a workaround, and that's a big workaround that somebody's going to notice. I don't think that's really fair or functional. So not only do we have the OPERS problem where we don't have monthly bills, but OPERS also says your contract is just not feasible in its current state.
So how do we get a contract that isn't correct?
Well, and to be honest, the contract can exist in its current form, that the city is supposed to basically run it by the pension before you sign some sort of contract like that that's going to be pensionable. And so the pensions are a little defensive. I think I've told you guys before, I love OPERS, I love them, but they are a humongous chunk of my week sometimes because we have to get it right for folks' retirement, and they require homework to be done. And there's no ordinance I can find where the council was offered to do this the right way, and OPERS agrees. So there's that kind of problem. So even if we move forward with paying today, I would pay it the way I've basically been instructed to do so, and then that would still leave us at an impasse on that issue that I'm sure would come up. If you see what I mean, it's still going to be a problem, even if.
Well, it's definitely going to be a problem still, but it's not going to be, in my opinion, It's not gonna be the city's problem. Because I don't think although we pay that money, I don't think we owe the penalty, and if that penalty must be paid to OPERS, that doesn't, if it's gonna be paid by the city, then it needs to be reduced from the fee that's being paid out. That's my opinion. Because if the city at the end of the day is the one that has to cut that check to OPERS, we'll do that, but we're reducing the amount of pay being made because we shouldn't, for the amount of the penalty, we shouldn't be paying that. That's not our problem. I have another question though.
If I can add to that, that was both the compliance officer's suggestion from OPERS and an off the record, this is outside of their purview a little bit from the state auditor's office, but an off the record suggestion from the state auditor's office as well. Because as the auditors put it more directly, Scott is the purchasing and payroll approving agent, even if I prepare it, and that's our dual control for preparation here, and I pay it and Scott approves it. It is overwhelmingly unfair, in my opinion, to ask somebody who's been here for 12 months to approve invoices that are 24 months and older, and go on the record with his credit and money and bond with his signature as a bonded agent, to take the risk with those penalties and other things. So this is my long way of saying that's what their suggestion was as well. Not to mention my bond as well. I didn't mention mine, but he's the one who actually has to sign and say, yeah, we're going to pay this.
Well, I think we should pay what we owe as far as, our portion of it, but certainly any fees or fines because of not billing in a timely manner shouldn't be on us.
Yeah,
That's what I say.
I agree with that too.
If it helps the committee as well, when the bills were updated, we were given an updated monthly breakdown as requested last month, March. The ones that were submitted within the window, meaning February, was paid as would be paid, basically, because that just seems, well, that's what we're asking, right? Monthly and on time, and then submitted to the pension.
Well, that's per the contract. That's per the contract that he wrote up. So.
Right.
Are you okay with that? What I'm proposing as far as
I wonder if there, I guess I'm just worried about the one thing of, as far as who the approval authority is. I know you already articulated it very well, but I wasn't even in country in the beginning of that work. So that's my hesitation. I don't know if there's a memorandum or something we can do that we acknowledge that fact and in good faith we're doing this.
Well, because I wasn't on council at the time when that started either, so I'm actually okay with a memorandum acknowledging, that as well. I mean, that's a little bit of CYA for you and a little CYA for, council that may not have been, Elizabeth wasn't there, Justin wasn't there.
And I don't think I've seen a bill. Did you see bills when when did we come in, 2017, the end? I don't think I've ever seen a
We've
bill.
never seen the bills.
And just since we're opening up this can, for the last 2 months, we've had to pay additional and above and beyond the salary. Please correct me. I thought it was close to 7 each month, but what was it?
It was pretty close. Yeah, I think maybe 58 on one and 7 on the other.
In addition to the 4,500 we're already paying. So we are going to rapidly current monthly legal fees.
Regular services.
So we are going to rapidly expend the line item.
Even without these, what we're talking about now,
This is
we would be pretty much out before the full summer hits, just because the billing rate is quite high.
So does the part we have budgeted, does that just include coming on Wednesdays into meetings? Is that what that basically covers, or?
Yes.
Half, right? Because even the trip to council meetings and the hours are on the bill, right?
Well, it depends because
I guess the retainer that chips away at it, right?
I don't get a timesheet from him, so I don't know when he gets 16 hours, I think, for the $2,500 a month we pay for his services, because the other portion of that is for the prosecutor. And out of that 16 hours, once he hits that 16 hours, that's when we start accruing the 150 an hour in addition to that. So in the month, if he runs out of that 16 hours within the first 2 weeks for whatever reason, then everything after that, to include council meetings and so forth, would be billed separately. Excuse me.
Does that include writing ordinances?
All touch time.
Everything. Texting, emailing, calls,
Driving.
I have another question. This is pertaining to the 2 3/4 years of the wastewater treatment plant. Was the annexation of that property was also part of that wastewater treatment project, was it not? Okay. And the annexation didn't take place until recently?
It's not even done yet.
Okay.
Unless something has changed and I'm not aware.
Okay. And we paid real estate taxes on that property for the last 2 years, is that correct?
I'm gonna have to defer because I know something just recently changed.
We did, and we got further bill for those, whenever property taxes went out. However, the state has finally approved an exemption on, most of them. I guess I haven't reviewed to make sure it's every parcel. But we had state auditors here this week, and they'll be here tomorrow, and anyway, it's been kind of crazy, but, yeah, so,
There is a positive change lingering out there.
yeah,
Which is good.
Okay. But we're still gonna be out monies that, for real estate taxes that we shouldn't have had to pay because it should have been dealt with.
I think so. When I
At the
last
beginning of
spoke
the
with
project.
Jill, when I last spoke with Jill Thompson, she mentioned that there was a refund of one of the parcels, but it was, I think it was a couple $100. So I don't know what the end result will be. I mean,
If I'm not mistaken, it was close to about $6,000 a year, was it not?
I think it was more. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess where I'm going with this is that if there's any money still that were spent on that portion of the project, that to me needs to be reimbursed to the city, because we never should have incurred those funds. That annexation should have taken incurred at the beginning of that project. And we should not, and it should have been tax exempt from the beginning, so we never should have had to pay a property tax bill. Does that make sense? So that, from my point of view,
Was there anything in the contract there that said, like it, time-wise, I mean?
as far as the annexation of the property, there could be, we could find out. You know, you have to pay the second half of a particular year tax or whatever, you know, but, I mean, taxes that are in arrears anyway, but, I mean, I just don't want the city, again, the city, that's what we're here for, is the city. We're here to make sure that we're not spending money, you know, on things that should have, I mean, that, to me, should have been one of the first things that we would have done, I would have thought.
On the surface, I just went through the letters and 2020 was exempted.
2020 was?
Right, and I didn't verify every single parcel because I don't know them off the top of my head. There's several parcels in this stack of papers, if you will. So 2020, so then we would have only paid taxes, what, 2019 and was it 18 too? I don't know, that's before my time. I don't know when we acquired that stuff.
And that's what we need to find out, because like Carla said though, the year that we acquired it, if you were required based on the contract to pay some of that, I mean, that is what it is, but other than that, once it's city property, once it's city owned, it becomes tax exempt, so.
Well, that would be your fight with once the city owns it, then that would be your fight with the auditor.
Well, but you know, depends though, did we fill out the paperwork to make sure that it was tax exempt? You know, so that,
That would have been at the closing, wouldn't it, of the real estate? Saying the city took took ownership of the property.
I don't know, I can't tell you that, I'm not for
I do
sure.
know we paid for the closing costs and all that stuff, so.
I'm just saying, if there's work that should have been done and wasn't filed on our behalf, then
I'm trying to look up when we
I don't know,
purchased it.
I'm almost saying you could go back and find with the auditor about that one.
Could be in a way, my limited knowledge, since this process has been underway since I've been here, is that the auditor collects what the state deems on the property. So this fights with the Department of Taxation as well, if there is an attempt to go back past years, the State Department of Taxation.
Do we have any idea how much the property tax was?
Was 7,000 per year. It was 6 and change. With all the parcels added together. There's several parcels, I'm sorry, I'm trying to navigate the map down to it now. It's locked up on me.
I think we need to find clarity on that too.
Yeah, and these letters that we just got, the recent development, I mean, it came from pretty high. I'm assuming Jeffrey McLean, tax commissioner, is somebody at the state level. So I don't know.
He's a cabinet level.
So that's who we got the exemption from, which is good for that. All right.
Does the city pay any tax on any other properties they own?
The only one that I haven't verified, so I don't think it'd be right to bring it up, would be one down next to Polly. So I'd rather not say until I can go and actually look it up by parcel.
I guess what I'm going at is if, at the closing, the city takes ownership of the property, and the deeds, as long as the deeds were filed, which they should have been, then there's no way they should have billed us for income or tax on that property.
No, depends on if this, on it, I can't.
It has nothing to do with the annexation of it. If the city owns the property,
If it's appropriate for me to say, I serve on the, well, actually Scott and I both serve on a board in Athens for a nonprofit. And the question was brought up by another Nelsonville resident, why we paid property taxes as a nonprofit. We, the board, the organization. And they also should be exempt, but they've been paying this whole time. So I guess there is a process, right? I guess is what I'm saying. And if you don't follow through with it, they do bill you.
And there's just those, I mean, even though we are a municipality, if we didn't fill out a form, there.
And of course, you can't then just not pay it, because then the tax lien could swipe it right out from under you if it went on long enough.
Well, technically, the auditor may be aware of the purchase, but the treasurer is really the one that bills. So. Yeah, I think I know which property you're talking about. That property was, I believe, donated to the city.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's where that whole mix up with the, I thought that other lot was ours as well. Come to find out I was incorrect. Come on, man. There you go. I got one of the parcels for down there, so I should be able to give you a date here in a minute. Taxes were paid in 19. So
The actual, I don't know, like a sale date.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to pull up right now. So we that's odd.
December.
It says the sale date was 18 November
yeah,
20.
November 18 of 2020.
Yeah, it can't be right because it was all done before I got here.
Yeah, the purchases were certainly paid for well before that.
it was finalized, 'cause there was a
It
lot
would
of
have
back
to-
and forth.
It would have had to have been in 18.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer was sold before I even started working here.
Wait, did it mean November 20th, 2018? Maybe?
It said November 18th, 2000.
Oh, it's in 2020.
Yeah. I go full different parcel.
Okay. All right, so while you're looking that up, Scott, Taylor, what's our second bucket?
The second bucket is general billing. Comes out of the water, sewer, and general funds currently, plus the 14%. Or I'm sorry, I didn't say the number, but it's over 100,000. I mean, it's close to under 25. And 14% city match on OPERS would be required on that.
I'm sorry, what three funds did you say?
Water, sewer, and general. That's where it currently comes. That's not set by any statute or anything. That's a decision council made probably long before any of us were here. And well, I was going to say one thing. I just lost my train of thought.
Sorry?
Oh, no, it was good. You didn't do nothing at all.
April of 19. Sorry, random.
April
April 2019. Yes.
2000 what?
19. 9 April.
So we're talking maybe half a year's worth of taxes.
I don't know why, though, like, one would have a different sale date than the other.
I think one was holding out, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah, one did hold out for months and months.
Yeah.
Was that the holdout?
That was probably the 2020 one.
I think because there was a debt issue with the payment.
That's right, there was leads or something on the property.
So how many years are we talking about with this general billing?
The same. Both of them start the same month, as far as how far back they go. The general billing, the city's practice once was to 1099 this and pay it as like an additional duty or something, and have no withholdings. I've run this through everyone. County office holders, state OPERS, state auditors, and local folks who used to be office holders here, some in my position for long ago, and nobody's ever been comfortable with that, and the state says it's not allowed. So with this payment, these payments that get completed, and unless council can overrule me some way, I'm doing them as W-2 basis. I'm going to withhold Nelsonville taxes for them, do the pension as the pension has said it must be done. I don't understand how you can W-2 the first 16 hours and 1099 additional hours for the same job. So anyway, that was one sticking point early on that has not been as big an impasse recently. But I just wanted to make you aware that is different behavior than the past that is probably quite necessary to change.
So, I'm assuming you have all this itemized.
Mhm.
Okay. So, what would he have done general billing wise that would come out to say 25 grand more than what the amount of work that he would probably be responsible for the wastewater plant? Because that's a very large project. We're up to tens of millions of dollars right now in terms of that project. We're paying him $100,000 for almost 3 years worth of work, and he's gonna now get $125,000 just for doing general stuff for the city. I'm a bit confused there.
I don't feel like I don't have I mean, I can of course share them with you and show you. I don't know if I have a good answer for it,
Okay,
unfortunately.
I'm just asking. I don't know. I'm kind of curious because just what would he have done for the city? I don't know.
I guess bring it into an executive session and ask him. I mean, you can't speculate what he was thinking.
Yeah, no, I just, that seems, odd. I'd be interested to know what all was done.
Did we need to plan that for the second
Yeah.
council meeting then? And
Yeah, I think we're gonna need to talk about it
I
because
think we'll just.
the other thing is,
After
this
that,
is,
it's Monday.
so
wait till Monday, isn't it?
they weren't here, or,
Right. So that's what I'm saying, so ask them, we'll council meeting on the 12th.
and this 100,000 here for the wastewater treatment plant can be probably corroborated by our engineers, right, as far as the work.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah, because there's, the sale of the real estate, there was negotiation of the
But,
AT&T towers, and all that.
but the other 125,
I don't know.
who can attest to that?
Well, just ask them the questions, I guess.
So I don't remember exactly which one it was specifically, but there was work, just to your point about the engineer, that was done in the past, and I did take the engineer's word that it was completed, and, you know, we processed that payment, which is not included in that. But, or I don't think it's included in that. It was an appropriate, or, money to get the grant to release it, and, he did verify. So if we need, I guess my point is, if we need any more verification, he's been more than helpful so far. And I guess to add to that, I feel comfortable if he validates that the work was done.
So then I guess that one is going to continue on, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so.
I'm not comfortable making, again, in this monies is gonna be late fees and stuff, but I'm gonna propose that we don't.
Well, I agree, it's not our fault that.
Pay
we
for
didn't- Yeah, so I agree there. So,
I mean,
but as far as
because,
the other questions, I would just ask him.
because technically by the contract, how it reads, I would say that that's a nice donation, because if he's supposed to be donating, if he's supposed to be giving us a invoice monthly, you know, I wasn't here, you know, when some of this, actually, if this is almost 3 years ago,
We was very lucky.
yeah, I mean, I wasn't on council at that point, so.
It does bring up, you know, I'll give my.
It's frustrating.
I'm sorry, Scott, do we have any questions?
Nothing yet, man.
I'll give my personal example, and it's just for full disclosure, because I got nothing to hide here. One of the things I was frustrated with reading it was as a council member, so I'm reading these time periods when I was a council member, where, and I consider myself one of the folks who didn't contact, unless it was an email very often, for Mr. Hunter at least, just because of our working relationship. And, you know, to go through these and read this amount of time for text to Taylor Sappington, this amount of time for email to Taylor Sappington, and I guess what I'm saying is reading my own name through it, my immediate problem, and I think Scott probably heard me say this 3 times, was how was I supposed to know that this was costing
That
the
we would
city
get charged.
if we were not getting bills for those time periods? And so, you know, if it's 6 months later after that conversation, the city's paid nothing additional, I'm thinking to myself, this is covered under the cost we have at the time had appropriated as a council.
Good point.
And so I guess what I'm saying, you know, this is one of my frustrations, is I'm thinking to myself, it's like looking in a mirror through time. I wouldn't have done most of these conversations unless, except for maybe in open session, which is its own problem because it's supposed to be a general council meeting. So, and that's littered all through it. So for those of us who have been here a while, you have that problem, and then you have the other side of the coin, Scott's, where how does he approve that, you know, that.
Well, I mean, since we're belaboring the point, I'd like to just throw one more on there too, as far as, I didn't give you a good budget because I didn't know what our monthly expenses above and beyond the minimum was. That's why, you know, we're March, April now, and it's been 5,000 and 7,000 above and beyond. So now I've got to come back and ask for more money, and I'm not a fan of that. As far as, you know, hey, we need more money, because I did my best to give you a good product, both of us gave you a good product in the beginning, so we weren't coming back and asking for, you know, crazy things unless something happened, like, you know, I'm going to share with you next, you know, a major event happened, so I'm going to ask for an appropriation, you know.
Well, I'm kind of with Taylor on that. If we would have known, I mean, it's not like I emailed very often, but if I would have known it was extra, I would have probably just waited till Monday night. Because, you know, it wasn't time sensitive.
Well,
I mean,
but the thing is, if like what Taylor was saying earlier, if that Monday night happens to be above and beyond his 16 hours already, you're paying for that meeting anyway.
it still would have been nice to know who's being charged.
I agree. I do agree. And think that might be a conversation that maybe you have with him on Thursday, what do you mean?
Friday.
Is, maybe renegotiating the contract.
Absolutely. I don't know how you guys feel since we're talking about it mildly, I guess just to get the thought generating, one, with our technology that we have available, one way to reduce cost a little bit would be to have a remote in instead of physically being here. However, I believe the charter says physically be here. But
I like you being here.
Okay.
Yeah, I see how it would save us money though, with them traveling.
I like you being here in person.
So should I put pins in those two as far as until conversations are had in the next week or so?
Friday and Monday.
Yeah,
I mean, that's only 2 nights. I don't mean like for the day. I mean for our actual council meeting. I like you here in person.
oh, no, I agree, I totally, I get that.
Well, I think, we should go into executive session and ask them the questions you got. See what Fran Street gets.
Okay, we'll move on with that. Scott, did you say you had something for us?
Yeah, I got, so the Jefferson Street, Fayette Street repair, just for everyone's situational awareness. The plan is to open up the majority of that intersection Monday, and I'll brief that at the council meeting. Excuse me. The foam has been placed underneath the concrete and stabilized, and the concrete has been poured. The concrete needs quite some time to cure before we can drive on it. So what I would like to do Monday is shrink down the corridor just around the fresh concrete and open the rest of it up. Just the concrete and the foam, not including the valves, time, and everything else. The concrete is just shy of $18,000, and we did get multiple quotes on that. The other quotes were over $20,000, and then $6,500 for the foam that was injected underneath. We weren't prepared to take a hit like that as far as a water leak goes. Now, when I say that, also know that the other side of the coin that I'm not asking for was a $14,000 water valve and another $5,000 in other materials with where they were put in the fire hydrant there. They put another valve in up there next to it and everything else. That, I believe, is very reasonable to absorb that into our budget and press forward. But the other, I mean, we're looking at over $30,000 or closer to a $40,000 repair. So
I love that stamped concrete.
yes, so I wanted to ask now why it's fresh in everybody's head instead of come back to you 6 months from now and say, hey, we ran out of money and we need more money. So if you want us to do that, I'm happy to prolong that and wait, and maybe we'll get lucky through other savings and not need that. Or if you want to do it now, then that would be greatly appreciated as well.
So we can take that out of the water fund, right?
Yes, ma'am, because the water.
Right. So,
That makes me feel a little bit better. But I would say we'd be better off probably doing it now, only because, more rain and,
24/5 is what you're saying?
I mean, if we continue,
Yes, sir.
more rain is potentially gonna make the situation worse, I'm assuming, if we just leave it the way it is and don't take care of it. So I would say, hey, Mr. Sherman, you're the contractor over here, buddy.
Well, I'm just saying, 18 grand is steep. Like, stamped concrete, I mean, price materials have quadrupled.
Well, and that concrete was pretty thick too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, so it's,
About 10 inches.
8 to 10 inches. So the foam seems just the foam feels pretty reasonable. It's just less stamped concrete is expensive.
Are we allowed to discuss who our cheapest bid was?
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Fisk was our guy.
Oh,
That was one of the
well,
original.
we know we'll get good work, that's for sure.
Yeah, he wrapped it all up. It looks, I mean, we're very happy with the product that he finished up. We just want to keep the traffic off of it because it's so thick. I mean,
Yeah, and people out there, please do not drive around the barricades. Those barricades are for your safety. The concrete could crack, it could collapse until it's cured. So the barricades are up for your safety.
And PD's writing tickets.
The PD is writing tickets.
Yeah, I agree with you. We should just do it now and get it,
Yeah, let's get
get
rid of
it done.
24.5, so we gotta appropriate 24.5.
Thank you. I would like to bring up one more for reattack. So, and it just kind of cleans everything up. With that, what I mean by that is we just redid all 3 union contracts. So we're starting out on a clean slate with 2021. I did find the ordinance that talked about the police chief and the fire chief, and it was last done in 2017. I think it might be worth it to create an updated one because there's the little raises over the years for both of those guys. And if we did a clean slate, fresh in 21, just like all the rest of them, so we're not going back 7 years and like, did they get 30 cents this year, 25 cents that year? It might be worth it to do a fresh one. And then if you wanted to retro pay the police chief back to the first, you could do that. And the increase, I told you incorrectly, I actually just did the real math. It would be a $2,500 annual increase, not a $2,000 annual increase. The pay difference is $1.18 between the 2 steps.
The, we're assuming 2017 is the, most recent, you know, there's nothing in the recodification that might be,
There hasn't been a recodification since 2015.
just checking,
Yes, sir.
so.
I remember voting on that ordinance, I think that is the last one.
I mean, I'm okay with freshening it up and,
Yeah, I mean, what for changes you wanna make?
I would just update both chiefs' pay rates to match the 2021 rate. And then since we're redoing it anyways, if you wanted to back pay the chief to January 1st, which would increase your annual budget by $2,500, that would be an opportunity where we're not generating work just for the sake of generating work. We're actually gonna kill a couple birds with that stone.
How could we do that if we had an ordinance? Or did you say we had an ordinance?
Yeah, it's the ordinance he's
Well,
talking
so
about,
it's an
actually.
updated contract.
But he's saying updating it, yeah, and then if you guys, while you're updating it, if you wanted to change the first step to less than a year, so 8 months or 6 months or whatever, you could do that, and then Scott would be empowered to conduct his performance review, which I think may actually be completed, and then he could act on it.
does that, and then then we need an appropriation too, right? Cause then we need to increase that line
It
item,
would be $2,500 increase.
which could just go into the appropriation line already, but
I
anyway.
don't know. 2,000, okay, Pitch, but now you're getting into our pocket. 2,500.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Sherman on that, you know, maybe that snowplow is looking better now, right?
I don't know.
And to be, oh, sorry.
Their Facebook post is kind of getting out of hand right now with the cleanup that they did the other day.
I will say for 2,500, I mean, I'm usually the one that is, once it's so exact, it annoys everyone in the room, but for 2,500, we could wait till later in the year to see if it's necessary, since the budget is based on an estimate of hours for the whole department, and he's paid out of that same salary line. But
True, we are saving money on
we
the,
can also run it through if you guys would like.
we are saving money on the system he's running.
That's
now,
true,
so.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there that, hey, you know, I just don't want it to bite us if we do come back in
Right.
4 months and say, hey, we need more. Just please don't forget that, you know, we're okay kicking the can and, you know, rolling the dice. Just
Right.
if you have to come
So
back.
I guess the 2 questions are, do we wanna update the ordinance to reflect the
I think we
new
should update it, that way we don't have to keep going back to 2017.
17,
Do
okay?
we do this, do we do that, do we do this?
And the second question is, then do we go ahead and allow them to, pay Fitch the new contract amount? Well, technically, we have to wait until that goes into effect, right?
But it could be in there, even though you could pass it and in 2 weeks to the second reading and then let it sit for 30 days. If you approve it to retro pay, when he does get paid, basically 2 months from now, it would get back to January.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean,
Back to January.
January 1st, that's what all the other,
so it would be an additional $500.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's June.
What I meant by dropping the year
No,
requirement
it's
is,
not June, thank God.
those are contradicting points in the ordinance, so you'd have to drop that year to get to January, because it's only like 6 months
Yeah, I
since
mean,
he started. See what I mean?
I'm actually, or do you think it'd be best to put a wording in there that, with council's permission, city manager may be able to step early?
Actually, that's probably.
Well, and I would say based on evaluation too.
Yeah, but that gives you guys
Yeah, that's the smartest way.
the stick to give me permission to do it early. If not, then I can just do it when the time comes.
Just wanna be careful what you put in for, like you said, we won't all always be here, what you put in for
Sure.
future use.
Yes, ma'am. So that's the only two I had for you. Was just that reattacking and the water appropriation. Do we need to talk about appointed versus salary, or is that still on hold for now?
Well, we could probably handle that at Monday's council meeting. I have an outstanding request with Mr. Hunter. I don't think he considers it outstanding, but about what was defined in the ordinance for the 2% raise. The ordinance that was written for you guys was very unspecific and very broad to basically mean the non-union raise. I mean, it's impossible to read it and read specifications. It says everyone non-union, but I don't think you guys meant everyone non-union, so I haven't initiated everyone. So I asked him, could you help me specify here what this ordinance meant?
Sure, asked a question about, define non-union, someone said, so it doesn't work for the union.
So, no, it brings up a good point. So the appointed positions, the city manager position, Susan, Sarge, I can't think of anybody else that's appointed. Just those three is my
The
understanding.
law director.
Oh, yeah, the law director.
So I'm not trying to give everyone raises that you guys didn't intend, but I asked him, could you help me clarify this ordinance, or do we need a clarification on it? And the answer I got was ask council. Well, I was asking the person who wrote the ordinance, so I was frustrated by that, to be honest. So I think Monday we should, or maybe tonight, should discuss a clarification on it, because I'm just saying this so that you guys.
So city manager Scott is a contract employee. So his salary is based on his contract. Sarge is not a contract.
Correct.
employee, So she should fall under the non-union. Hunter is a negotiated set price. So he doesn't fall under the non-union.
And at this point, I'm not
Yeah.
obliged to increase 2%, just, based on he's already getting, it looks like, additional pay.
That's what I'm saying, he's basically a contracted amount.
Yeah.
At a certain hourly rate.
Susan,
I think if you want me to.
Susan is, that's a good question.
we only brought it up because traditionally none of those four positions got any.
Well, I think Sarge-
I think in the
City.
past, there was always about 5 people that ended up getting that raise.
And a lot of the ones you just mentioned were not of those 5.
Okay.
That's why, I think it's easier to clarify, and I'm dancing around it because I know this is not what you intended, but how do you say that you didn't? I mean, I understand Scott's a contract employee, but how do you say he didn't? How do you say the auditor didn't? You guys should really set this rate, because otherwise the unspecificity is not clear, and if I give it to one clerk but not another clerk.
So yes, you give it to the police clerk, so you should be giving it to the mayor's court clerk, because they're basically
Or the council
half,
clerk.
well, so they're part-time employment,
There was an ordinance for that though.
and,
I don't know.
There was.
so there's an ordinance that sets Susan's pay rate.
So I don't know if that's.
So I think we're gonna have to have a discussion with Mr. Hunter, though, at the meeting, because I think he's gonna have to provide us legal, guidance on that, so we don't.
My idea was I could bring the list of names or positions, I should say, the list of positions that I'm like 99% sure what you meant, which was not one of the more, like some of the examples I gave you, and then you guys could discuss and possibly sign off on, or something to put with it.
Bring to the meeting, can you bring a list of all city employees that are non-union?
Yep.
That'd be the easiest thing to do, and then we'll just go down to the
Now, if
list.
you need clarification on that, that's anybody that's not in the union.
I got that part. I really do.
So I've heard.
I got that. I'm just was a little frustrated with it when I was like, anyway, never mind. But as long as we solve it,
Not definitional.
because I'm pretty sure who you guys meant and who you didn't mean, but that's not really how ordinances work. So I just need clarification. I have just a couple things. Can I speed read through some stuff?
Yeah, I thought we was.
Alright, make it quick though, cause you know,
Okay.
I'm back to work, so I gotta get up early.
You guys will have an ordinance, I'm making you aware because this is not really something we have a huge option in. It's for health insurance, we did get notice of what the raise and the increase in health insurance premiums would be for July 1st, starting July 1st. Everyone should be happy to know that the number is actually between 0 and 2%. The number that's required based off the health insurance consortium's finances is 0. You will be shocked to learn that I suggested 2% to the board, much to Scott's teeth gritting down the hallway because I'm just kidding, Scott, but I suggested that because I felt it was going to be incredibly inappropriate for them to say 0 this year and then some exorbitant amount next year and cause us all the stress and heartburn they caused us 12 months ago. So I suggested just do your inflation increase and do not poke the bear of council set for 12 months from now. For Belpre, Nelsonville, or the jail, they are going to vote on the motion. So you guys just have to authorize my vote to approve something between 0 and 2%. It may end up being 0, but
Some will recall back when I was on council when we were talking about changing this 134 to a consortium, I was not for it. It's not supposed to be increases in your premiums on a consortium, just so you know. But I knew this would happen eventually, and it would be problematic. We'll see.
So is that written somewhere?
Well, I thought our insurance.
Well, they don't actually call them premiums in a consortium, they're fees, but
So
the premiums typically don't go up, but the fees.
Yeah,
do.
so I thought we went in with a high rate and then, because it was like the first year or two, and then it was supposed to start going down from there,
I remember that.
right?
Yeah,
Couple
well,
years back.
0%. Well, 0% is as low as it gets. That's what was suggested by
Negative
the
two.
folks who run it. But I did suggest something between 0 and 2, and that I would not fight the board on whatever they decided. But the council does have to authorize the city's position on it.
just to put it in perspective, what's 2%?
Oh, good question. Actually, I can give you the 2% based off January 1st because we haven't rerun the numbers with
That's fine.
new employees. It would be $8,600.
Yeah, we're at 0.
Huh?
We're at 0.
You can authorize 0. I'm not
I don't
gonna.
think we wanna do your 2%.
Listen, I just want to say while the camera's on that if it's 0 and next year's 10, I'm just gonna sit here quietly with my no more mask on, I guess, at that time.
There's still one with that.
Huh? Anyway, there'll be an ordinance for it, so you guys will see that Monday. The next thing is the state auditors are here today, tomorrow, next week. Fortunately, it is going better than last year's, in my opinion, fail. Last year's was for 2019 when the theft was still going on.
Alleged.
And I would give,
Is
Yeah,
there
she-
anymore?
She pled guilty.
No longer let.
yeah, right. And there's a sentencing Monday. Very excited.
We'll be there.
I'm very,
Is it Monday?
Sing.
12th?
I'm very,
Wow.
I shouldn't have said excited. I apologize for those at home.
Is it the 12th or the 14th?
It's whatever Monday is. We were just there
So,
yesterday.
Monday's the 12th.
Yes, Monday.
12 to 2.
Shouldn't have said excited. That was unprofessional. But the audit I'd give today is B minus, C plus. It's a lot better. She said some of our new practices we've instituted since the end of last year's audit. She used the word quote perfection, and that doesn't just mean my office. That means Scott's and other offices around here, City Hall. So we're in the moving in the right direction. And the last bit of good news, I bring all good news today, is that Software Solutions and I have been in a round of negotiations for one of our software prices. It was going to be $8,000 to be used from the American Rescue Plan, I think it's called. Should you guys authorize it Monday, I got $8,000 down to $6,000, which I was pretty happy about. And then in a further set of conversations and homework and digging through past emails from two auditors ago, it basically is going to come out to the most expensive portion of the software that Wellston just paid $34,000 for. We are going to get for free. because the city signed an original agreement with them in 2012 with the expectation that utility billing would come along with our accounting software, which we of course paid at the time. Is it the same product? Of course not. That was 10 years ago. This is a much better product today, but free is free, and we are on the wait list. And so by far the largest portion of the cost for software that you guys will be voting on Monday is now free.
One thing he wasn't clear about, they didn't deliver.
Yeah, do they call those modules? The different
Yes.
packages? Okay.
Sort of.
I remember we did talk about this in council before when I was on many years ago, 2 auditors ago.
Mhm.
We were supposed to get those modules, which we paid for with that software. We never got them. And there was at one point we even said, listen, if we can't get what we paid for, then we want our money back.
Uh-huh.
They did not want to provide us. They didn't want to
No,
give us
what
money
was
back.
provided
We're getting
eventually.
it now.
So utility billing was delayed, and I'm gonna be straight up. Even though this is a customer service issue for them, right? SSI and VIP have been extremely helpful in the theft investigation and all kinds of stuff. VIP, in my opinion, is by far the best software we use at City Hall, and we're gonna try and universalize it across City Hall with what you guys are voting on. That said, a deal's a deal, and an agreement's an agreement. And once we went through those and went through the emails and turned them on over, we said, we pretty much expect this because we think you should have given it to us. Now, they did give us eGov, our current utility billing software, for free as a holdover because their utility billing product was basically still in development. And that's what we've been using for several years, for 5, 6, 7 years maybe. So they did. I mean, we got something out of it. But in my opinion, the new sales guy, who's my age, he's probably been there a couple of years. He had no idea this stuff took place a decade ago, and I didn't either. But we had a conversation about it, and you can thank Judy and Robert for it, who kept saying, I feel like they remember. They said, Taylor, we think we remember something from that time.
Nice.
And it will be free. So I'm very excited about that.
I like free.
I love free. I
It's
love
not free, it's just delayed.
delayed. We delayed. Well, whatever we paid for 10 years ago was going to be far worse than what we have now. So
Yeah, buddy. That's
we're getting a Cadillac with a Corolla price, I think. And like I said, Wellston just used $100,000 of CARES Act to switch all of their software across City Hall to SSI, which is what I'm basically asking you for, and Scott's asking you for. And like I said, utility billing was $34,000 of it. We're getting that part for free, and the rest should cost us. I didn't bring the number, but like 12 grand or something. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
You're talking about for the convocation.
No, for the employee portal and
yeah.
Purchasing. And, yeah,
Purchasing.
So do we have any CARES Act money to talk about now that you brought it up?
Not yet.
But let's talk about money. Just, I don't know if it's on your radar, but Osteopathic Heritage Foundation and Rocky Community Improvement Fund grant cycle applications are due April 19th.
What was the first one you said?
Osteopathic Heritage Foundation. It's one that's from well, it's now Ohio Health, but it was from Doctors Hospital. It's their foundation, and it has to be. I think that one is specific to Nelsonville.
Not familiar with that one. Rocky, one we have on our radar. Leslie's actually putting that one together for an umbrella.
I think Rocky may administer the osteopathic foundation one, so I think you should be able to see them both on the same website. And then NatureWorks grant, June 1st as well.
So with that one, what are your thoughts on that?
I have none at this point. I'm excited to hear yours.
Well,
What's our options?
It has to be
well, we have so many opportunities in Nelsonville. We'll pick one. How do y'all feel about a dog park?
That was brought up a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
we've talked about it for a number of years. We've tried to make something happen, and nothing's come of it. So I think that I think there's a lot of people that would like a dog park.
So there's gonna be an opportunity at the end of this month, where there's 4 or 5 parcels all stacked up against one another that are all the cities except for one in the middle. And that one is likely gonna become available. And once it becomes available, you know, it's really not useful to anyone but us, in terms it's in the floodplain, you know, I mean, it's not big enough to put another house on and so forth. So, if we were to pursue that, we would have the cost of one parcel, which the auditor value, I think, is $4,000 or like slightly below, and then a fence just to get started. I know there's some people out there expressing a lot of interest in this, and be willing to do fundraisers as well. You know, ideally to get like a prefab gazebo out there, and then if you guys wanted, we could even throw cameras to hook into our camera system on Poly. People will be able to park at Poly Field, pop up over. We'll be able to clean out all that shrubbery up against the bike path and clear it all out, and just leave the 2 big trees there for shade. So if that's something,
Are there neighbors, I mean, that might have a concern for that being right beside them, or?
so there is one neighbor directly across the street from the lift station. I think she'll be fine. There's a rental, Maria Summers rental right beside there. And then there's a trailer and another rental. So I think it's all 4 rentals. Right
They're
there.
all across the street then, they're not.
So the only one that's gonna be up against is the house with the red roof. So when I say up against, you know, we don't have to go clear to the property line, obviously, but up in that direction would be the barrier. So of course, you know, time limits, dusk to dawn, whatever, you know, you guys choose. That's just a suggestion. We can go any direction you want with that.
That's a typical, park rule, I would think, so.
Again, I was just looking at parking. There's plenty of parking at Poly. We could put two, possibly 3 handicap spots right there where the lift station is, and then have the rest of it there. There's already shade. There's water there, so getting water would not be an issue.
Right.
The little dog fountain, but of course it wouldn't be all at once. It would be steps, you know.
Sure. The only thing is, I don't think you can use, NatureWorks to purchase the property, so we'd have to purchase that out of city funds.
Right, you can use nature to fence it or improve it.
Yeah,
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. so, but,
I'm happy to discuss it Monday with everybody and get everybody's input. I mean, I have no objections to anything,
talk to
really.
Mr. Duffy if he wants to discuss it in a Parks and Rec meeting, but, I like the idea.
We walked around, what was it, 3 years ago, looking for, had some dog park options.
There's actually a lot right across the
Dog
road there.
biscuit freaking vending machine.
There's another lot that's actually better suited for it. However, I contacted the owner just to get an idea of what they would want for their property, and we're not on the same page at all. So that would be my suggestion. We go however direction you guys like.
I like things with like that, that sounds
I guess
good.
it would depend on how much we would get. I mean, if there was anything we could do at the park, if we didn't get that much, I mean, a dog park wouldn't cost much. So I guess it would depend on what the grant is, how much.
My understanding is the county's allocated $39,000. So that might be kind of a challenge with all the events over the past year. But there's more money available out there as long as we get our ducks in a row.
Do we have to get confirmation if certain commissioners coming to council on Monday?
I got all I have is the same email you guys got.
Huh?
I only have the same email you guys got. I haven't talked to them.
Anything else, Ms. Grant?
No, that was all. Any questions? Anybody have any other questions?
No, only the one statement. One last, just informational alibi. We're still trying to fix the lights at Poly Field. The manufacturer's been involved. They are shutting off during the day now, which is good. If anybody gives that feedback to you, but at night it's like twinkle lights all around the field. So they flick on and off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're working on it if you get any complaints.
Okay, so I guess we will adjourn this meeting at 8:28. Thank you.